Hey gang, here one more time. Zone 4, the lactate threshold zone. Couple things here. Make sure, just a quick note, and I wrote this down too. Make sure that if you really want to get the full effect of these, all of these posts that we're doing here. You want to read the all the text and the posts and listen to the audio, because for those of you that have been doing both, you know that they can be a little bit different. Usually I will elaborate on something a little bit more in the writing, or elaborate more on something here in the audio or video. So definitely check out both. And sometimes my writing can be a little quickly done and suspect, so it's always good to get another take on it. But lactate threshold. So first thing you want to do is define what that is. What is your threshold? And that is the point at which your body stops filtering lactic acid and lactate from the body that you're producing. And at that point, your power output, as your power output keeps going up, the time in which you can do that power for diminishes very, very quickly because of this buildup. So the definition of when you put it into the field, into either a power output or a heart rate or a pace or whatever, even though we don't use pace in cycling that much, if ever, it's not. It's defined by blood lactate and your power and heart rate at that blood lactate level. That is the best starting point. Field tests are great to use. However, sometimes there's confusion on what length of test. Some people think it's 30 minutes, some people think it's an hour. The best way to really dial it in is to get the lab test, take that perceived exertion, heart rate, and power, take all those pieces of the puzzle, and then go out and see if you can do it for an hour. And again, we talked about this earlier, having a lot of data points to define a certain characteristic is best. Don't just do one test. Don't, one time I wrote up this climb in an hour, and I went to analytic cycling and punched in my weight and everything, so this must be my threshold. No. It's good to have many data points. I have found more frequently than I thought that there are a lot of athletes, good riders, that can't do their lab-defined lactate threshold for an hour, or they can, but it's not repeatable. It's not quite as functional as we would like it to be. So your threshold really needs to be functional. It really needs to be usable. Okay. When you take that into consideration, the simple variability is that you're not going to be on your very best every day. And also the variability of some athletes, distance athletes, triathletes, time trialing specialists, people like that, they can bang out their threshold no problem for a really long time. Whereas other athletes, riders that have really good sprinting power, really good 5-minute power, big lung capacity, but maybe not as much endurance capacity, they're going to have more trouble, repeating and having their threshold be functional. So you really want to make sure that that it is functional for you. Okay, and also the terrain. I know a lot of people where their wattage on a climb is much higher at threshold than it is on the flats. I can produce 10, maybe 15 watts more on a 45-50 minute climb than I can on a flat road on my TT bike and big ring. So, or even just on a flat road on my road bike. So there's a lot of variability there, and also, as I mentioned, your zones, they're not to the exact 1 watt. There's a range there. So don't lose sleep over, I was going to do a 50-minute test and it was only 45 minutes, or I was going to do an hour and it was, whatever. There is a range there. So between using these ranges and using them on a daily basis and having as many data points as possible, that's when you'll really get this stuff dialed in really well, so you can have really effective training. And interval workouts for threshold work. In general, if you go back and look over the interval discussion that we had, the interval topic that I did, there's a lot of give and take between, how long is the interval and how repeatable is the interval and what's the total time of intervals. In my experience, threshold intervals should be at least 10 minutes long or more. So a lot of you have probably heard many different types of threshold interval workouts. I really like the 3 by 15 minutes, right at threshold, 4 minutes rest, maybe 5 minutes rest, and or even 4 by 15 minutes would be a good one. The 3 by 15 minutes is good. It's a nice long interval. You end up doing 45 minutes of work. I've done that myself many times, and on the time trial bike, and I find that it's really effective, and it's also very repeatable. As long as you're not slaughtering yourself on the other days, you could do that workout 3 times in a week and have it be pretty effective. So 3 by 15 minutes is my favorite. You might be restricted by stop signs and stoplights and the length of a particular climb or stuff like that. So find out what works for you best. 10 minutes minimum for these intervals is really, I really think is important. And 2 by 20 minutes you might have heard of as well. It's also a good one. So good luck. And again, remember that this is a zone. All these things have ranges. All these zones have ranges, and your threshold is going to have a bit of a range as well. So don't stress out about getting things down to the exact watt on every test that you do. And another good, I'll mention it quick. Another test for for estimating your threshold is doing a 30-minute test and taking somewhere between 3 and 5% off of that. People might have heard some criticism for that. Some people might have heard that's how you do it. If you don't have an hour-long area, a climb or a time trial area that you can do that without stopping, or a 50-minute one even, the 30-minute one taking 3 to 5% off, I found can be pretty accurate for people. So but again, lots of data points. The more data points you have, the better. So there's threshold. And tomorrow we're going to be talking about the red zone, up in zone 5. We're going to do zone 5 and zone 6, just 2 more anaerobic zones. So thanks for checking in. We will see you all very soon, tomorrow morning. Hopefully I'll get that one out bright and early. So hope everyone's doing well. Train safe. We'll see you soon.